Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for being continued listeners of the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast. Many of the episodes that we are currently releasing were pre-COVID-19, literally up to the week of, and they were scheduled to be rolled out over time. But with the COVID-19, we had a little lull, so some of these are even a little more or pre-COVID wall, so I would like to say. But I want to thank you. Make sure that you're maintaining social distancing and being safe, and be very conscious of yourself. This is the time you've been given where you can really just kind of find out who you are. At least that's how I'm doing it. That was one of the reasons for the slowdown and release of episodes. It's because I just took a step back. Anyway, you can always find the show at emmettmuckles.com or any podcast aggregator, or just search for The Billionaire Lifestyle with Emmett Muckles. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. Please visit iTunes, Stitcher, or emmettmuckles.com to listen to all the episodes for free.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Emmett Muckles. If you like the podcast, here's some things that you can do. You can go to your aggregator, which is where you get your podcasts, and leave some stars, bars, whatever you do. Rate the podcast. You can always find the podcast on emmettmuckles.com, and that's EMMITT. Muckles you'll figure out because there's not a lot of me out there. Guess what? Today was a day that you were given, and tomorrow's not promised. Yesterday is over, so live in the now. Whatever you are going through, it too shall pass. So like I always say, if you're at the end of your rope, don't forget to tie a knot and keep hanging. But let's move on. Today, my guest is Michele Vandepas, and she has a wealth of knowledge. So if you have a book in you, she can help you with that. If you're an entrepreneur, she can help you with that. If you're over the age of 55 and you have a 16-year-old, she can help you with that. So we have a lot of things that we're going to kick it with. How are you, Michele?
Oh, great. Thank you so much. You make it sound like I'm an expert in everything, but we'll see as it goes on here today.
You know, once you get to a certain point in your life, you accumulate a level of knowledge that you can only see once you can reflect upon it.
Yeah.
And you can see it lacking in other people because like things that they'll be stressing about, you'll be just like, why are you stressing about that?
Yeah. You said it well when you were saying we have to live in the now, right?
I mean, it's so important because, you know, a lot of times we are guided by the past because it's part of our subconscious firmware. And what I mean by our subconscious firmware is that there's this imprint that makes us who we are because of the experiences we had. And sometimes we get fearful because of those things. And one of those things is people always say, I have a fear of writing. I can't write. And so they should write their story regardless of if they can write or not, because there's things in place as you are a publisher and you have written books and you've talked at TED Talks. Why is it important that someone write a book?
Yeah, great question. So most people, if they're called to write a book, it's sort of a nudge inside, right? It's on their bucket list. It's something they've always dreamt about doing. They have something they want to share about their experience in life, a trauma or some wisdom or a system they've created. And so, you know, with anything, if you have a nudge, if it's to climb mountains, travel the world, or write a book, if you've got that nudge and it keeps coming back, it's important to do. It's important to do for your soul. And for that reason alone, it's worthwhile to write your book.
But, you know, I've written a book.
Oh, good.
It's available on emmettmuckles.com.
Good. Excellent.
And I had that nudging. As a matter of fact, I had a story, this inspirational story that literally downloaded to me in like an afternoon, and I had to kind of, over the next 2 weeks, I was doing nothing but typing and working out. But that was actually the easy part. So what most people don't know about when you write a book there, and I've covered this on the show a couple of times because I think it's very important that almost everyone write a book. And here's why. Because it's his story. Mm-hmm. Because it's from your point of view. For instance, my mom did a term paper and she wrote an autobiography, and I learned things in that after she died that I never knew in life. So it's important for people to write if it's only for your immediate family. But if you're really publishing for the real world, what I learned was you have to deal with colors, you have to deal with gutters, you have to deal with sentence length, you have to deal with structure, you have to deal with editors, book coaches.
You're right. And the way that I like to talk about it is the first step is just get your first draft out there. We don't care if it's any good. Doesn't have to be polished. Doesn't have to be good writing. That's what editors are for. That's what book coaches are for. First draft, first step. But then going through the whole publishing process, there are things that really polish it up to make it a really great book. And some of those things are colors on the cover, gutters and margins that people don't think about, headers. Is the table of contents so long that people are going to be overwhelmed and not read it? Is it too detailed? Or is the table of contents a nice representation of what people will find inside the book? All those things are what set apart a professionally published book, even if you're self-publishing, to someone who just wrote their story and stuck it up on Amazon without going through the next steps to really make it from good to great.
Now, a lot of entrepreneurs back in the day, you would hear, hey, go to my website. I published an ebook for you. Or you don't hear about individuals producing, especially entrepreneurs, producing hardcover books or softcover books. Everything's digital form. I am a person who loves hard books because they're tangible. They're something you interact with. Is there a difference for an entrepreneur for writing an ebook versus a traditional book?
Yeah, absolutely. I think an entrepreneur has to have at least a paperback, not necessarily a hardback, but a paperback book for credibility, to show them as an expert in their field, whatever that field is. I say you can write a book about tires if you're a tire expert, right? So whatever your field of expertise is, but the digital downloads are more for people to opt in to your content. So you can give away free reports, you can give away tips and PDFs and all kinds of things, right? So people give you their email, they get this free content, but then it should go to a real book, not just a report that's put together, not just 10 or 20 or 30 pages, but a real book that somebody can pick up and hold and has a spine.
Yeah.
It's another term that you learn about when you're publishing. Because that sets the credibility that you're an expert in your field. You have something more to say than just 10 pages. Like you've really thought it through. You've gone deep into your subject. You know the pros and the cons. And that can be on your life story. That can be working through a trauma. That can be if you're an expert in tires, if you're a business coach, if you're a podcaster, right? If you have an inspirational story to share.
Yeah. So tell me the process, because there are many people who have the book in them.
Yep.
And they don't know where to start. Well, we've kind of given them where to start. Just start writing. Start writing. Start writing your ideas and get them going. But after that, so let's say I have this outline, manuscript, whatever you want to call it, and I'm just Joe Schmo sitting in his house looking on the internet. What do I do next? What is the next step?
Yeah. So from my perspective, the next step would be to send me your manuscript. Be brave. Just like hit that send button and send it to me, because I'll give you some free feedback. It needs to go to an editor. need you to go polish this up. This is almost ready for publishing. Send it to a university professor. Send it to somebody, find a book coach. Send it to someone that's not your best friend or your partner who's going to tell you that's great.
Right.
You need to hear some good, honest truth. Everybody needs editing. You know, Celine Dion and Whitney Houston worked with voice coaches.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep has an acting coach. We all need help to get better, to polish our craft. And so the next step is you share it. You get brave and you share it, but you share it with someone who you trust who's going to give you really good advice. Then you go through the editing process. And if you're not even at full manuscript yet, if you're just at bullet points or thoughts, you can still use an editor or a book coach to help you solidify all those thoughts in your head, all those rabbit holes, really discern who is the book for, what is the one point you want people to really grasp after they've read your book. What is the purpose of your book? Are you trying to spread a message? Are you being inspirational? Are you looking to build your business?
Yeah.
All these things a book coach or a publisher can help you think through.
So what does a book coach do?
So different book coaches do different things. I've spent a lot of years as a book coach. I help the author get the stuff out of their head into a bullet point or an outline so they can start solidifying their book, their writing,
Okay.
right? So we may just get lots of bullet points, writing prompts. We may have an outline. We may get a working table of contents. And then we'll work with an editor to move things around. A book coach might hold you accountable, say, I want 500 words every day.
Yeah.
A book coach may say, I need you to do these writing prompts and let's see where that takes you.
Yep.
A book coach may, tell you that your book maybe isn't going to get very many reads or sales. And if you tweak the subject a tiny bit or go in a different direction, it has more market potential.
Yeah.
So, on the book coach.
Is there a difference between a book coach and a book shepherd?
Great question. I don't actually know. I think so. People call themselves all kinds of things these days. And so I think I know some book shepherds who feel like they take the book all the way from the very beginning to the idea all the way through publishing.
Yeah. So with that, there are some other things that intellectual property concerns that come up. And with that are your mechanical rights, your publishing rights, and a lot of this is tied to this little thing called an ISBN.
Right.
And so what is an ISBN for those who are listening?
Yeah, so it's the number that's inside the book. So anybody can pick up
The barcode.
any book, right?
Yep.
And right in the beginning on the copyright page, you'll see ISBN numbers. I don't know if you can see it. So you can pick up any book and you'll find them there. That is the number that is assigned for who owns the package of the book. So the author always owns the copyright.
Okay.
But while it's in the package with the cover, the editing, the table of contents, the back cover, it's assigned an ISBN, and that package goes under that ISBN. So if you change the cover, you need a new ISBN.
Oh, I didn't know that.
If you change 20% of the book, you need a new ISBN.
Wow. So what if I've produced this book and I'm going to put it in an audio version? Is that a different ISBN? So let's say I'm going to package it together. Hey, if you buy my soft cover book, you also get the, what is it?
Audible?
The audio book with it. Do those have to have two different ISBNs, or is it a combined ISBN with them as a package?
No ISBN for audiobooks.
Really?
At this point, it's for written material. ISBNs are for written material.
Huh.
And if you go through Audible, so things change every day in the online world, right? So I'm going to say something that's going to be different in 3 months. But today, I don't think there's an easy way to go gift a book through Audible to a client. So what you do is you would have an easier way would be go buy the Audible and I'll gift you the ebook.
Okay.
That would be easier to do.
You can see I have like green space stuff going on in the background here because of the green screen.
Yeah, it's cool. It looks cool.
So, I mean, you've done a lot of this stuff. Now, I'm going to diverge here. So, someone can come to you and you can really answer all these questions and kind of guide them along the process. And how do they find you?
Yeah, so people find me through podcasts like this. I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube.
What do they look up?
Word of mouth. What's that?
So what do they look up when they're looking for you?
GracePoint Publishing.
GracePoint Publishing. What about a email address as well?
Publisher at gracepointpublishing.com.
All right. Okay, cool. So a lot of times you can publish a book, produce a book.
Yeah.
Have ISBN, you have beautiful artwork, it's laid out wonderfully, you've got coached all the way through, and you say, yeah, give me 1,000 of these, and then they sit in a box.
Yeah, absolutely. Been there, done that. My first book.
That's the challenging part for most self-published authors and new authors. So what advice do you have them to get them ready for the process that this really has to be promoted, that you have to sell this
absolutely.
book?
Yeah. And I do want to say that I have published memoirs with people like you were talking about earlier. They really just publish for their friends and family. And that's okay. Like, you don't have to have this outside pressure that if I don't sell 10,000 books, I'm a failed author. That's not true, right? But let's presume that you do want to sell books and that you do want to get out there and build your audience. In the publishing world, when we take an author on, we start the launch promotion and that whole launch plan about 3 to 6 months before the book's ever published, if we have that amount of time.
Okay.
We start looking for people to help promote. We're very particular about book descriptions. We try to get clients on podcasts. We look for blogs that might want to pick it up, reviewers, endorsements, all those kinds of things. I have a couple of clients that don't do anything online, and they take their books to garden shows and farmers markets and all those kinds of things in the summer.
Yeah.
And sell like crazy.
So
there's many different ways. There's not one right way.
So do you have a program for someone, or do you guide them in those means and ways to promote their book once it's produced?
Yeah. So speaking as a publisher, I'm going to put my publisher hat on.
Yeah,
now.
do that.
Yeah. If we take on your book and we publish your book for you, we're a traditional publisher. So we don't charge to give us your manuscript. We're a very traditional publisher. We accept certain manuscripts, then we pay you a royalty. But we have marketing packages where you can invest with us and we will go market the heck out of your book. We're going to market your book anyway, but if you pay us some extra money, we're going to work harder to pay that money out and get you on places where there's paid endorsements or paid reviews or Amazon ads and Facebook ads and those kinds of things. So we'll work on your behalf either way.
Okay.
But if you have some money to invest, then we can turn around and invest that money in some paid programs.
All right. So let's say I have a 100-page book in me, soft cover. What can someone typically think about investing out of pocket to produce works of that nature?
Yeah, so if somebody just wants to self-publish, I always recommend having a minimum of $3,000. Our programs are at $5,000. Whether if we coach you through self-publishing, we'll help you do that. $3,000 to $5,000 is a good amount. And then you're going to need at least that much again for promotion. Say
it again.
You're going to need at least that much again for promotion. So I want to say this, though. I have speakers who give away their books, who spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year on promoting the heck out of their book and give it all away, and that's not where their money comes back.
Yeah, that's true.
That one book gets in the right person's hand, they'll get booked to go give a speech for $10K.
Yeah.
So you got to be strategic about why you're writing the book. And if it's to build your business, then we want to make sure that that's how we lay out the breadcrumbs.
So it's one of those things, and this is one of my mottos that I tell people sometimes when they're looking for their returns right away. And I say this, you can't always expect to get your fruit where you plant your seed. And they look at me
I love that.
with the most
I love that.
puzzled look. And when they don't understand what I'm saying, I say, look at it this way. I give you a seed and you plant it in the ground. They go, okay, yeah. And I say, and you cover it up and you water it and you keep looking at the ground and you start seeing this little root come out, right? And you're still looking at the ground. A year goes by and you're still looking at the ground. It's this big thing sitting in front of you and you're like, where's my fruit? And all of a sudden, something hits you on top of the head. Don't look to get your fruit where you plant your seed.
Yeah, great analogy. The other thing I like to say is there's short-term and long-term. So when we first do a launch, we expect some book sales.
Right.
We're going to do some hardcore promotion, get some book sales. But then things like podcast and blogging and maybe speaking and YouTube and, you know, all kinds of things, press releases, those are foundational pieces that add up together to give results a year later, 2 years later, right? I've had people call me from podcasts that I did 3 or 4 years ago.
And do you do workshops for people?
I do occasional workshops for people. I do a lot of online workshops. Mm-hmm. People can sign up, you know, again at GracePoint Publishing. I also speak. I'm speaking this weekend in LA. I'm speaking in Denver in a couple of months. So you can come find me around the country.
Where are you geographically based?
I'm in Colorado Springs.
Oh, nice. Is it snowing there?
It is. It's cold.
Yeah.
It's cold today. Where are you?
I'm near Chicago.
Ah, well, that gets cold. Don't talk to me about cold. That's colder.
Yeah, it's snowing right now.
Yeah, okay.
So what would you say to someone, particularly an entrepreneur? Because a lot of entrepreneurs in this space of the internet need to share their thought. And it's not always through blogging. They need some tangible items. They need a blog. They need a YouTube page. They need a book that coalesces all their ideologies into, you know, this little compact form that someone can always reference. Where should they start in their process to get their people to understand this book is coming out and you have to get it?
Well, I think I heard something before that. So I'm going to answer the question before that, which is, what is it you really stand for?
Yes.
So what are you willing to put your stake in the ground about, right? What is it that you really want to shout from the rooftops about? And all your ideas should coalesce around that. And then you can build tangents. We all are more than one-dimensional beings. But when you have one thing that you stand for, and your YouTube and your book and your blog and everything stems from that first and then goes out, then people are anxious for your book. They want to read your book. They know exactly what it's going to be about. They know who you are. You know, Brene Brown has written, 10 books on vulnerability now.
Yeah. Julia
Cameron, who wrote The Artist's Way, has written 27 books about finding your inner artist. How do you write 27 books on this one subject? Well, she can go down lots of rabbit holes and tangents, but you know exactly who she is and what she stands for.
Right.
So that's where I would tell people to start.
Good. Can you say your full name for me so I can make sure I didn't get it totally wrong?
Yeah, it's Michele Vandepas.
Vandepas.
And if you get it totally wrong, doesn't matter.
They kind of get it anyway. So do you have any Facebook groups?
So that's kind of a trick question. I do, but I'm not real active in them right now. I'm So if you friend me on Facebook, I've got a readers group. So when I have a book coming out, I give some advanced copies to people.
Okay.
I have a couple of specialty groups for some healing and whatnot. I don't have a writers group right now. I have a membership site where people can get all kinds of writers tips and courses and publishing courses and all that kind of stuff. And if they go to GracePoint Publishing, they'll get a link. They just sign up for my email. They'll get it all, right? They'll get all the things. Facebook groups take some time.
Yeah, they do.
And, as I would tell, I guess we all have to follow the advice we give. And I always tell my authors to choose where they put their time wisely.
Yeah.
And this is way more fun for me, to be honest, than a Facebook group.
Yep.
So
the last thing that I'm going to ask you in regards to all the things that you do, TED Talks.
Yeah.
So someone like me who should be on a TED Talk, how do you get into that realm?
Yeah, cool. And I'm a TEDx coach now, so I coach speakers. So maybe I can give you some insight. The first thing is know what you stand for, or know what your idea is that's a little bit different than everybody else's. So do you know what that is, Emmett?
Yes.
What would you speak about?
Humanity. And see, I'm going to explain it to you this way. I know who I am. I know my capabilities. And I know many people's capabilities, but they don't see theirs. Which means I'm not afraid to fail. And so looking at that, so many people have a hang up because they're looking at the failure before they've begun the journey. And with that, you've already lost. So I'm an African-American man who's running a podcast. I'm teaching solar. I'm doing so many things, and I've become proficient at it because I tried. And I knew I would suck at the beginning, but I had to keep trying. The second thing is you have to learn to tame the ego. And that ego goes back to that thing that has you looking at yesterday, and it has you looking in the mirror, not believing the beauty that's within it. And it's also saying not. It's also saying not. Instead of saying, you know what? I'm not going to believe you. I'm going to go try and fail.
That's a good TED Talk title, Try and Fail.
Yes.
Or Try to Fail. That's a good title. I know that there's all kinds of TED Talks within a couple hours of Chicago.
Yeah. I think there's one here I think there's one in Valparaiso, which is near me.
Yeah. And so the first thing you do is you reach out to the organizer. Mm-hmm. Just go to the website and find out if they're holding auditions, if you can submit a video. Each TED Talk is independently curated. So you may get turned down in one in Chicago and accepted for one in Dallas.
Yeah.
Right? And so some TED Talks only take local people. Some TED Talks have a theme for the year or a theme for their 6 months. And so you want to find out first how you apply to that specific TED Talk.
Okay.
And then you're going to want to submit a 1 to 3 minute video to the curator.
Well, that's not a problem here.
Yep. And be open. Most TED Talks now have some kind of coaching.
That's fine.
Yeah. And so for everybody listening, be a little bit open to some coaching. And it's just like writing a book. They may tweak your content a little bit to polish it up.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Michele, for being on the Billionaire Lifestyle Podcast.
I love the name. I was telling my daughter, I'm happy to say I'm 61 with a 16-year-old daughter. And I was telling her today, I'm on a billionaire podcast tonight. She's like, does he know you're not a billionaire yet?
I bet.
Like I like that word yet.
Ooh, my arm disappeared. I'm going to prove that you are as we end the show. Ladies and gentlemen, you know where we go from here. Today you woke up, like I said, and yesterday is gone, tomorrow is not here. So what are you going to do? You're going to deal with right now. Whatever you are doing right now, you won't be thinking about next year. Figure that out. You won't be thinking about it in 5 or 10 years. What I need you to understand, as I was trying to convey to Michele, is we are all billionaires. And I haven't said this in a while, but I'm going to go back to it. What I need you to do is just look at your hand. Take your hand, look at it flipping back and forth, and look at the front and the back. That is your hand, correct? Correct, Michele?
Correct.
Since that is your hand, you control it. If you think it does what you want, and in that hand, from where your wrist meets the hand up to the longest finger, that is made of cells, which is where we get the word self. And in those cells, just in your hand alone, there are 1 billion cells. So you are comprised of trillions and trillions upon cells, which make the self. If you think about it, before you got to the planet, before you stepped onto the planet, you were still in a biological spaceship, because what happened was, some information from one entity got with information from another entity. A chain reaction from the cosmos happened. 2 to the power of 30 equals over 1 billion, and that was the beginning of the self. So you are a billionaire. If you don't believe so, when next time you get out the shower, pose up, move up to the mirror, and what you will see is your eye. And I want you to get close and look in your iris, because your iris in your eye looks like a nebulae in the sky, because everything is fractal. We are all connected, made from the same stuff. So why are you tripping on other things? Live for yourself and live for now. Everything that is connected to you in love is you incarnate. Till next time, love you all. Peace.